Coming up next on the Giants Chronicles podcast, we're talking all things Giants free agents except Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. What's going on, everybody? We're talking all Giants free agents except Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones on Giants Chronicles podcast, episode 4. What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about Giants free agents. Of course, we covered Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley in their own episodes. So now we're going to talk more of depth pieces and possibly starting pieces for the 2023 season. So our pending free agents, we're going to start with Nick Gates. Nick Gates, of course, came back from that horrific leg injury this year. And he looked dominant still. My major concern was, is he still going to have that physicality that I had to him before? And to me, he looked like he was the same Nick Gates. He in that Dallas game, particularly when he played center, he was pancaking guys. It was just great to see Nick Gates back. And I think he performed well. I think he is a true center. He's not a guard. We plugged him in at guard for most of the year after he came back, of course. I believe it was the Seattle game was his first game back. He was kind of more of a rotational piece. And then we moved him into rotation at guard with Ben Bredesen. So yeah, Nick Gates, he's someone I would consider resigning. However, I feel like he was more of a Judge guy. He was kind of more of a Joe Judge guy, and he doesn't really have that connection with like Dable. Although they did really they cared about him, because of the story coming back. They treat him well. However, I think Nick Gates is going to want to go somewhere where he's guaranteed a starting spot, and I don't think that's going to be with the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants are going to possibly draft a center this upcoming draft. And I don't think Nick Gates will be back here next year, unfortunately, guys. I love Nick Gates. He's one of my favorite players just because of the person he is, the story. I love Nick Gates because he came from underrated. He was an undrafted free agent, and next thing you know, he was starting center. He was dominating, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, and he was back, and it was a great story. I love Nick Gates. Great person. Everything I hear from the media is he's great in the locker room. Just unfortunately, I think he's going to move on from the Giants. I also think the Giants won't give him the money he wants. Again, he's not going to get much money anywhere, but he'll probably get more money somewhere else. So this also goes in with the next person we're going to talk about, which is Jon Feliciano. Jon Feliciano came down from Buffalo with Joe Schoen and Brian Dable to play center, which he is naturally a guard. My assessment of Jon Feliciano's performance this year was up and down. I thought it was serviceable for the center position. I thought he played it the best he could play it. But he's a serviceable center. He's getting up there in age. He's 31. He's 31 now. And so I think what the Giants might do at the center position this offseason is they will resign Jon Feliciano because of that Buffalo connection. I mean, it's going to be Nick Gates or Jon Feliciano, and I do think that Schoen and Dable are going to go with Jon Feliciano because of that Buffalo connection. And so I think they'll sign him to a vet minimum 1-year deal again, and then they'll draft a center. So Jon Feliciano will most likely start the year. It's just whether he finishes the year, because I think maybe they'll work that center and develop the center for some of the year, and then he'll learn under Jon Feliciano. So that's what I think they're going to do at center position. So I think they will keep Jon Feliciano for the 2023 campaign on another 1-year vet minimum type of deal to play center. The next free agent is a very interesting one. It is none other than the hype man himself, Sterling Shepard. Young Shep. Love Young Shep. One of my favorite players in the locker room, one of my favorite personalities in the locker room. He's the longest tenured Giant, and to me, he embodies everything a Giant is. And he did a lot. Like, He got hurt. Obviously, he tore that ACL in week 3 against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, which I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional because Shep's been through a lot in his career, an injury-filled career, to be honest with you. He's had a lot of injuries. Was coming back, you know. Shane and Dable gave him a chance. They gave him a contract to come back when they could have just cut him, and he came back. He was starting. He looked like he was performing well, and then he tore his ACL. He just tore his Achilles last year, so that's yet another injury he's rehabbing from, just wearing down his body more. But Sterling Shepard was still heavily involved in the meetings. He was heavily involved with the team. Even in the coldest days, he was out at practice with the team. He gave his heart all he could. He went to away games with the team. He was on the home, always hyping up everyone, the fans, everything like that. And I'm sure he was a great presence in the meeting room. So I could see Joe Shane and Brian Dable keeping him around because they did what he wanted, in the fact that they wanted him to stick around, and they wanted him to, be a support to the team. And he did more than that. He was wearing players' names on his shirts, all that. It was very cool to see. He was known as the hype man this year. And I think because of that, I think he deserves to come back for one more year at least. And if he gets hurt again, well, I think you put incentives in the contract. Make it a cheaper contract. Again, he's a vet, so he's going to cost a little more. Going to have to put him on a vet minimum deal, but he's not going to get any more than that anywhere else. But I do think Sterling Shepard should be back with the Giants in 2023 because he did everything Brian Dable and Joe Shane asked him to, even after he tore his ACL. However, not when he signed the contract. They want him to be a key part of their offense, and that was clear a couple weeks in. But then, unfortunately, he did tear his ACL, which it hit me hard. Shep, he's put so much. He's put so much into this team, and he's done everything a Giant is supposed to embody. So I do want to keep Shep here, for sure. But it just depends on everything, like money wise, and if Shep wants to stay here, I think he does. Why no one would want to move in their career at the age of 30? But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. I think Sterling Shepard will stay around. The next one we have to talk about is Justin Ellis. This man has to go. You just cannot keep him. He was brought in as a depth player to be Dexter Lawrence's backup, rotational D-line player. Every play he was in there and he was just getting mauled. Every play. I think he had one sack on the year, and that was a sack that he kind of got lucky on. But every snap, he was either getting pancaked, completely thrown out of the play. He has to go. The Giants have to find better defensive lineman depth than him. He didn't cut it this year for me. He wouldn't have been on any other NFL roster. And unfortunately, the Giants just had to keep him around for depth because that's how bad our D-line room was this year. And injuries played a big factor into that. You had DJ Davidson getting injured, Nick Williams getting injured. Those were our two big defensive lineman depth pieces, and they were out for the year. So, but next we have Matt Breida. All right, so Matt Breida, I like Matt Breida. I think we didn't use him as I would have liked this year. I felt like we were using Saquon too much, and we weren't using Matt Breida enough. Matt Breida, he's still only 28 years old, so he's still pretty young. Everyone kind of thinks he's old. No, he's still pretty young, 28 years old. He's only 2 years older than Saquon Barkley. But I think we used him. When we used him, I think he was efficient. He was an efficient backup running back. When we used him, and I think if we use him more maybe next year, I think he pounds the run. He had a couple good runs. He would do the wildcat with Saquon. He would do jet sweeps sometimes. Pretty fast, efficient backup running back. I wouldn't mind keeping him around, especially because we're going to need to have a backup running back. So maybe you give him another vet minimum kind of contract because he's not going to get any more than that anywhere else. So I feel like he would be someone that, again, someone that came from Buffalo with Joe Shane and Brian Dable, someone that they might want to keep around in the locker room, and someone that performed when he was given the opportunity this year. So the next is long snapper Casey Kreider. Casey Kreider has been with the Giants for, I believe, I mean, he's been here for a couple years now. I think it's over 4 years. Um, and the long snapper is a position that, like, not a lot of us pay attention to. But Casey Kreider had some miscues this year. He wasn't getting down there and fast enough to tackle. Long snappers don't just have to snap the ball; they also have to run down the field and tackle. And he wasn't getting down there, and he was kind of slow. And some of his snaps were just not there. Some of his snaps are low, and causing a lot of problems on special teams. Especially, I believe week 1 Tennessee game, he had a low snap that caused Graham Gano to miss a field goal. I mean, it was just he was just not that great this year. However, I could see the Giants re-signing him, but he's a vet, so he'll get the vet minimum, and I think the Giants should probably go in a younger direction, someone younger. He is 33 years old, and I think it's just time to move on. I mean, he's been here forever, and he just doesn't seem like he is how he used to be. I like to bring in a younger center to replace him, kind of someone undrafted free agent, whatever, to play that position. Next, we have Jihad Ward, edge rusher. Hottie, as some of you might know him. Jihad Ward's a big Wink Martindale guy. Jihad Ward would not be in our locker room if it wasn't for Wink Martindale. Jihad Ward, he had to step in a lot more than I think any of us thought he would this year. With Aziz getting continuously hurt. So Jihad Ward was that third edge rusher we had. He's a better run stopper than like a pass rusher, which is something I would not like to have him as our third edge rusher next year. I would like to add someone better to be our third edge rusher, someone that has a higher pressure rate. But Jihad Ward, overall good depth piece, good player in the locker room, funny, I would be very interested in keeping him on a vet minimum. Again, another vet minimum kind of contract because he would like to stay with Wink. It's kind of like he's Wink's guy, so anywhere Wink goes, he goes kind of thing. And he's also said that publicly. Anywhere Wink goes, I go. So it's kind of like that relationship. So with Wink now staying here, for this year at least, I think Jihad will once again sign a vet minimum contract with the New York Giants to play with us in the 2023 season. Big locker room guy and someone that I definitely think we should keep around. Next is Nicholas Williams, interior defensive lineman. I don't think we'll keep him. He was actually playing pretty good. He was a good defensive depth piece. I think he started in Detroit the year before. In 2021, he started in Detroit. I mean, he was playing decent depth. The defensive line the depth wasn't as bad when he was playing. And then I believe he got some of a hip injury, I believe is what it was, and he was out for the season. So I don't think he'll stay around again. He's getting old. I believe he's 33 as well. He's getting older. And I just think they're going to go younger at that position. I think they're going to draft someone. I think they'll sign younger free agents as that depth piece on the interior defensive line. Also, he's coming off of an injury. So I don't think they'll keep him around. He's kind of a 1-year deal kind of thing. Next, we have Tony Jefferson, safety. Another Wink Martindale guy, someone that was brought in to kind of help everyone with Wink Martindale's defense. I think Wink Martindale would like to keep him. I just don't think he didn't contribute. To me, he didn't make any things that made my eyes he didn't make any plays that made my eyes open. He's kind of in certain packages. So I don't think we should keep him around. I think that's one of the guys that we're gonna have to let walk. We can't keep everyone. And I think we have good depth at the safety position where he obviously plays. So I just think I think we should just move on in that position. I think Tony Jefferson, again, I think he came in to help install the defense with Wink Martindale. Next, we have Landon Collins, who's kind of the same role of Tony Jefferson. Landon Collins is also a safety, but played more of a linebacker role this year. Um, and listen, with Landon, he wants to retire a Giant. I mean, he said that he wants to be there. Um, he wants to stay, and I would be open to keeping Landon. Just because of he didn't make plays this year. I mean, he made a big hit in the Washington game, if I remember, and they had that pick six in the Colts game. And you know, you do need to have that leadership of that Landon Collins brings. I mean, he's been with the Giants before. He he's a big locker room guy. He's been to a Pro Bowl. He's been successful in this league. And I think you need to have someone like that. So I could see the Giants actually keeping Landon Collins again on probably a vet minimum 1 year deal. Most of these players we're talking about are probably going to come back on that vet minimum 1 year deal. So yeah, I think the Giants will be open to keeping Landon Collins. However, the one thing that does make me think is the linebacker room is going to take a big renovation this year. I mean, it is clearly one of the weakest positions along with wide receiver on the roster. And so I don't know if that hesitates for keeping Landon, but Landon didn't play a big role in that room. It's not like he was the big problem. And I think he would be a good depth piece with leadership to keep around on that vet minimum 1 year kind of contract. Um, so yeah, that covers Landon Collins. Again, I could see the Giants not keeping Landon Collins, but I think Landon wants to retire a Giant. And I think we should grant that to him just because of what he's done for the organization in the past and the kind of leader he is in the locker room. The next we have Jamie Gilligan, punter. Jamie Gillen, punter, known as the Scottish Hammer. Listen, Jamie Gilligan, he has to go. Maybe not go, maybe give him a shot, but at least you have to bring competition in for him. He just was too inconsistent. He couldn't down the ball inside the 10-yard line. He lacked the touch of the foot. What I mean, the touch of the foot, I mean, like he kind of just kicked it and hope for the best is kind of how it felt. And he was slow getting the ball off of his foot, things like that. And that needs to, I mean, you need a punter that's more consistent than him. And I just thought he was way too inconsistent for my liking. And I like a consistent punter, someone I don't have to worry about. And he was someone I had to worry about. So again, that special teams unit was horrendous, and he was one of the main contributors to that special teams group being so horrendous. Next, we have Richie James, wide receiver. This is an interesting one. Richie James gets a lot of hate from the Giants fan base, Big Blue, us, all of us. And I didn't think he did a bad year. Had a bad year. I mean, he was pretty good at wide receiver. He had a high catch rate. He didn't drop a lot of balls. He caught most of them. And I think with Wandell not going to be ready until mid-year probably because he's coming off that torn ACL and he didn't have that, I believe, until the Detroit game. So he won't be back until mid-year. You need someone other than Shep who is going to be a slot backup wide receiver. And I think if we could, give him another 1 year contract, maybe he wants to explore the market and get more money because I think he could possibly, because he had that, I think he had over 700 yards this year. And I think someone would be intrigued by that to give him more than the vet minimum. But then again, maybe he wants to stick in New York. And I think, possibly he wasn't a bad punt returner either. He did have those fumbles in the middle of the year, but on the second half of the year, it wasn't as bad. And he was serviceable. So I think if you keep him on vet minimum, maybe you keep him. However, I do like Khalil Pimpleton, who is on the practice squad, and I believe signed a future reserve contract. So that brings us to our next wide receiver, Marcus Johnson. I do not see him keeping Marcus Johnson. Marcus Johnson contributed earlier in the year before Isaiah Hodgins came. He just wasn't anything special. No reason to keep him. Again, you have to let some guys walk. There is no benefit to keeping Marcus Johnson on this team. I just think Marcus Johnson, he did the best he could, but it was clear that this coaching staff did not trust him after Isaiah Hodgins came in and he was on the bottom of the depth chart. Just don't see us keeping him. He'll walk. Maybe we bring him back on the practice squad, but again, the future reserve deals were signed, and I don't believe he was one of the names to be signed. Then you have Gerard Davis, who is a linebacker who he picked up towards the end of the year. I believe I think it was week 18. It was a very late addition. Um, yeah, I don't see us keeping him. Again, like I said, the linebacker room, it's gonna be a whole renovation. Don't see him being part of the renovation. I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a huge, vacuum. Except I think we might keep Landon Collins on that in that room just as a leader, but Gerard Davis joined the team late. Isn't really that big of a leader. He played decent in the small time he was with us, but don't see us keeping him. Kind of was just someone to bring in that the Giants were panicking, like we need a linebacker who's serviceable, and he did it for a while he was there. The next on free agent that we have is Fabian Moreau. He's an interesting one. He didn't play bad this year. He played better when he was lining up against wide receiver twos, not ones. And then when Adoree got hurt, his role increased to covering wide receiver ones, which is not what he's meant to do at any stretch of the imagination. But I could see the Giants bring him back on a vet minimum deal, if anything. But I do think they will let him walk. I think he'll go play somewhere else. Don't see us keeping him. Seeing us going more younger at corner. I see us drafting one in the top 100 actually this year. I see us drafting a cornerback, and I think he's just not. He's going to want to start or have a role, and I don't think that would be here. So I think we're going to have to let him walk. Next, that brings me to Jalen Smith, linebacker. Again, like I said, for Gerard Davis, renovation galore in the linebacker room this offseason. Don't think Jalen Smith will be part of it. He was a huge, huge liability problem on the field this year. And he was a problem. He was one of the main problems. I mean, he just got blocked and it was over. I mean, you got to have linebackers who can shed blocks. You got to have linebackers who can get off of blocks. You can't have that. He was just getting mauled. No way we keep him. I don't see any possibility where we keep him. So I think he walks and maybe gets a chance somewhere else. I don't know. But that's not what this is about. Next we go to Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, one of the most inconsistent wide receivers in the league this year. I mean, he had one of the highest drop rates in the NFL. And I just don't see us keeping him either. I think he'll walk. I think he'll get good money somewhere else. But we're not paying him the money that he'll get somewhere else because he's looked at as one of the best wide receivers in the free agency class. And while that isn't anything that really means anything this year, I think he'll get $5 to $10 million on the market where the Giants would offer him below $5 million. I don't think we go above $5 million. So I think he'll walk and he'll get a deal somewhere else to play. But he was just way too inconsistent this year. And I think he wants a payday, and the Giants are not going to supply him with that payday. Then we have Henry Mondeau, interior defensive lineman. He was kind of one of those depth pieces. He played more in the beginning of the year than the end. I think he might have got hurt. I don't know. I think he was out a one game, maybe a couple games. He didn't play that much. I could see us possibly keeping him, but I think, again, the interior defensive line is going to get a big renovation this offseason. They're going to go younger at that position. Don't think we'll keep him. Maybe we will on a small deal because he's younger. I don't think he's a vet yet. Possibly we keep him, but I don't see any way against that interior defensive line group, other than Dexter Lawrence, DJ Davidson, the rookie, and Leonard Williams. I don't see us keeping a lot of depth that we had this year. I see us going more younger there. Then that brings me to Oshane Ximines, who has been really up and down this year, to be frank with you. I mean, he's had a very up and down career with the Giants. He started off the season strong, and then it just kind of faded away. I don't see us keeping him. He just too inconsistent, not a great pass rusher. We need to get not a good pass rusher at all. I mean, he's not a third pass rusher. He's not a fourth pass rusher. Maybe he's a fifth pass rusher on your depth chart. But don't see us keeping him. Just way too inconsistent. And dependable. That's what Joe Shane and Brian Dable want. They want a dependable player, and O'Shane Ximines does not fulfill that requirement. So then we go to Lawrence Cager, who's a tight end. These are our this is an exclusive rights free agent, is what he is. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with him. He's an intriguing player to me. He is a wide receiver convert, so he's more of a pass catcher tight end than he is a blocking tight end. I think we could keep him around for camp, just see what he does in camp. But he's an exclusive rights free agent, meaning I believe we can like pick up an option kind of thing on him. Actually, is keeping him around. So just to give him a chance in camp, see if he can be that third tight end, a pass catcher kind of player. Then we go to Wyatt Davis. He's a left guard. He came in at the end of the year as a waiver claim. He was with us in the beginning of the year, and then he got picked. He was actually on our practice squad in the beginning of the year, and then he got picked up to, I believe, to Arizona. It might have been to the Saints first. I think he got picked up off of us, and then to the Saints, and then he got picked up, and then the Saints, I believe, cut him, and he got picked up by Arizona. But yeah, Wyatt Davis, I don't think we're keeping him around. Maybe as a developmental kind of thing, but again, we signed all our developmental players to the practice squad, future reserves deals, and I don't see us keeping him around. And then we have exclusive rights free agent. Again, that means you have exclusive rights, meaning you have the right to them. Is Jack Anderson, right guard. He didn't play a lot this year. When he played, it didn't look terrible. I could see us maybe keeping him around. But I think that interior D-line, again, is going to need a lot of renovations alone. So I think we go younger there. I think we're going to be drafting someone, again, with a top 100 or a, fourth-round pick there to plug in at guard. And then now we have our two big free agents topics of this podcast, the bigger names on this team this year, starting with Isaiah Hodgins. Wow. I mean, this guy just wowed me away coming in from Buffalo halfway through the year. Yes, he knew the system, but I mean, you have to have some sort of adjustment. And I know him and Daniel worked a lot after practice to get that connection, but that's hard to develop halfway through the year with a brand new starting wide receiver in Isaiah Hodgins. And he came in and balled. I mean, he was just balling out. It was crazy. I believe he had touchdowns in like 4 straight games. Definitely, he's an exclusive rights free agent. We're definitely keeping him. I do not see us not picking up that. We might even extend him to keep him. Guys, this man had over 400 yards and only played the last half of the season. I think he might have hit 500 actually, but if he can do that in half a year, it will be interesting to see what he can do in a full year. I think it's not crazy to say that Isaiah Hodgins can be a wide receiver too in the future, at least until we find – first we have to find a wide receiver 1, and then Isaiah Hodgins can be that wide receiver 2, and I think he could actually ball out. I think he's a lot of potential, high ceiling, so definitely we're picking up that option year on him. And that brings me to a key contributor on defense this year. You have safety Julian Love. Well, this is an interesting one because I don't see a Giants fans or beat reporters talking about this enough. Julian Love, I think there's a real shot he doesn't stay with the Giants. He had 1 year to me. Okay, so he led the team in tackles and interceptions, but we didn't get a lot of interceptions this year. So I think it was like he had 2 or 3 maybe. Julian Love wants a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. For 1 year of production, to me, it does not seem like it's worth it to pay him over $8 million APY, average per year. So I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I mean, I think they would like to keep him around, but I don't think they will. Because I think he wants a lot of money, and I think he can get that on the market. I just don't think it's worth it for the Giants to pay him that much money. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it, to be honest with you. I think we can plug someone like Jason Pinnock in that role, who's younger, who we already have for the 2023 season, who can play the role just as good, maybe a little a little under what he did, but I think he can play it just as good as Julian Love did, which is that in the box type of safety. And Julian Love can go get his big payday on the market. But I don't think it's worth the Giants paying him over $8 million average per year. I would pay him $7 million APY maybe. But that's a lot of money to me for our safety, who we have younger players like Dean Belton and Julian Love's still young, but Dean Belton and Jason Pinnock, who can fill those roles, or we can even draft a safety in the draft. Just don't think Julian Love is as valuable as he and his agents and representatives think he is. So I think he'll go get a payday on the market. I just don't see us keeping him around. And Joe Shane's not going to reach on a player who I think he'll see the same thing. He'll see, look, you had 1 year of good production. I mean, yes, you were a top 10 safety in the league this year, but you had 1 year of good production, and I just don't see him. I think it was also due to the system he was in. I think Wink Martindale put him in a great position to be that have a good outlook, but I just don't see us keeping him. Also, if your safety is your leading tackler, that's because they're getting past the linebackers, and typically you don't want the running backs getting past your linebackers. Just saying. And a lot of the time, that's what happened this year. The running backs would get past the linebackers, and the safeties would have to clean it up. So I don't see us keeping Julian Love. I mean, maybe we do. Maybe we do. Maybe Julian Love realizes, hey, I want to stick in this system. I want to stick in New York. I will take the deal you're giving me, which I believe the Giants will give him $7 million APY. Takes it or leaves it, whatever. But I could definitely see him walking. I don't think Giants fans are talking about that enough. And I think I need to bring that up. It's just, guys, Julian Love could legitimately not be a Giant next year. I think you have higher priorities than him, including, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and then you have a whole free agency to get through with money as well. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out. Guys, thank you for all the support. This again, that's the last free agent we're talking about. That is all of the Giants free agents that they could possibly re-sign or let walk. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm gonna come back to this and see how right I am about some of these players. But guys, thank you for all the support. We're growing. I want to continue to grow. Please, please share with your friends, post on social media, whatever. The more viewership we have, the more fun we'll have on this podcast. Again, starting the first week of March, we'll start having live shows. So that means you guys will be able to come in the live stream with me and talk about your team with me. And of course, I'm very excited for that. But for now, we're just trying to grow the page until March 1st, which is our first date for a live stream. I'm very excited for those. But again, I want to grow our page as much as we can before those. And I appreciate all of you watching. Until then, let's go Big Blue.